All right, guys, we have some big news when it comes to PlayStation and Jim Ryan because he has made the decision to retire and they will be restructuring the management at Sony Interactive Entertainment. So let's go ahead and get into the announcement here and what this means going forward for the company. So, new management structure of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Jim Ryan to retire next spring and Hiroki Totoki to assume interim CEO role while keeping his current role at Sony Group. Now, September 28, 2023, Tokyo. September 27th, San Mateo, in terms of the dates here. Sony Group Corporation and Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, today announced that SIE President and CEO Jim Ryan has made the decision to retire in March 2024 after almost 30 years with the PlayStation business. To support Mr. Ryan in his transition, Sony Group Corporation President, COO, and CFO Hiroki Totoki will assume the role of chairman of SIE effective October 2023. Effective April 1st, 2024, Mr. Totoki will be appointed interim CEO of SIE while he continues his role at Sony Group Corporation. Mr. Totoki will work closely with Sony Group Corporation Chairman and CEO Kenichiro Yoshida and the management team of SIE to help define the next chapter of PlayStation's future, including the succession of the SIE CEO role. Jim Ryan joined Sony Interactive Entertainment's Europe-based legal entity, Sony Interactive Entertainment Europe, SIEE, which was then Sony Computer Entertainment Europe in 1994. Since then, he has held a number of senior positions at the company, including president of SIEE, head of global sales and marketing at SIE, and deputy president of SIE since January 2018 before being appointed SIE president and CEO. This is a comment from Kenichiro Yoshida, and he says, quote, Jim Ryan has been an inspirational leader throughout his entire period with us, but never more so than in overseeing the launch of the PlayStation 5 in the midst of a global COVID pandemic. That extraordinary achievement made by the entire SIE team has been steadily built on, and PlayStation 5 is on track to become SIE's most successful console yet. I'm immensely grateful to Jim for all his achievements. Respecting Jim's decision to finish his long career at Sony leaves me with an important decision regarding his succession, given the significance of the game and network services business. We have discussed intensively and have determined the new management structure. We aim to achieve Sony Group's further evolution and growth through bringing even greater success to the game and network services business. Now here's a comment from Jim Ryan himself, quote, after 30 years, I have made the decision to retire from SIE in March 2024. I relish the opportunity to have a job I love in a very special company, working with great people and incredible partners, but I found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America. I will leave having been privileged to work on products that have touched millions of lives across the world. PlayStation will always be a part of my life, and I feel more optimistic than ever about the future of SIE. I want to thank Yoshida-san for placing so much trust in me and being an incredibly sensitive and supportive leader. Now here's a comment from Hiroki Totoki, who's taken over in the interim. Quote, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Jim Ryan for his outstanding achievements and contributions over his 30-year career at Sony, including the great success of launching the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation business managed by SIE is an essential part of Sony Group's entire business portfolio. I will work with Jim and the senior management team closely to ensure our continued success and further growth. I am also looking forward to creating the exciting future of PlayStation and the game industry together with everyone at SIE and its business partners. So there you have it, guys. Jim Ryan is out retiring from PlayStation, and it seems like he's retiring just in general. This man, he has his money. He's done his damage. It's been 30 years, 3 decades of PlayStation, pretty much since the PS1. He's been there doing a great job in some people's eyes, at least. But in Sony's eyes as a company, he's done a phenomenal job with launching different systems and being there for sales and marketing. And many people are having very different reactions to this. Now, there's pretty much 2 sides of the fence here, and maybe even some people on top of the fence when it comes down to it. So there's one side of people that say, you know what, like Jim Ryan, I don't necessarily like all of his decisions when it comes to games and the direction, but he gets the job done. I love the games, and PlayStation 5 is doing really well. And then there's the other side, and this is the people that have probably grown up with PlayStation a little bit differently, right? They like some of the other stuff, so the Jak and Daxter and the Ratchet and Clank and the Sly Cooper and some of that era, right? Or even the PS3 era with Killzone and Resistance and Infamous and what they were doing there, and they're like, I don't really like what they're going for with PSVR and all these live service games. What happened to that, Sony, that I know, where they really got into the online, but then also had single player games? And not at this point, you're seeing just a lot of third-person cinematic style games with a lot of live service coming in the future, and the game releases are just slowing down to a crawl when it comes down to it, which I've seen many PlayStation fans, hardcore PlayStation fans, sit there and say, wait a minute, what happened to the game output when it comes to it? So it's very interesting. I think that overall, it's a complicated legacy. I think that his legacy with PlayStation overall is solid and set. Obviously, if you're there for that many years, they would have got rid of him a long time ago if they didn't like him. But when it comes to the fans and some of the decisions with what they've done from the PlayStation 4 era and what Sean Layden did, I think that's where there's a little bit of controversy, where people say, well, wait a minute, hold up, we're getting less games than we got before, we're getting more live service, we're getting higher prices, there's like not as many good things with this era. So it's definitely complicated. I think overall it's complicated, but I think that everybody's legacy can be a little bit complicated when it comes down to it. Nobody's perfect, myself included, of course. Everybody makes mistakes. We've all been there, done that, and I think that Jim Ryan probably did the best that he could, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that are happy to see him go. Now, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if Jim Ryan's vision continues. It seems like that's going to continue. I think that the people that they get in there pretty much align themselves with Jim Ryan, and whatever he's doing, it's already been set in motion. So I see a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, this is great, now they're going to change up everything, and I don't think so. Like, all these games that are already in development, stuff like that, like, you can't just pull the plug on everything if you have a certain structure and business that you're trying to do, especially with how long games take to develop now, taking 3, 4, 5 years to develop. I think that a lot of stuff is already in development and things aren't going to change. I think where you really could see a change, where things could drastically change, is in the next generation. So around 2028 or so, or the end of this generation, you might see some things from the new CEO and how they want to do things. Maybe you see the resurrection of Japan studios. I don't know, but I think that for me personally, here's what I would want now that Jim Ryan is out. I would love for them to once again bring back the Japan studio. And I know they have Team Asobi, and that's fantastic, but they barely make anything. Like, they barely make anything. They're sitting on a gold mine, in my opinion, if you can get it done right, of fantastic IP like Gravity Rush, for example. And I think that if this new CEO, which is a Japanese guy, I think that this would be the perfect time to start putting in the plans to bring that back, and to maybe even having a bit more of a balance between those cinematic third-person games that people do love. Those sell great, and live service games, but then also kind of having a little bit of that other stuff that brought a lot of joy to PlayStation fans, and myself included, over the years in the PS1, PS2, and PS3 era. I think that having a bit better balance could really help out. Now, they have a lot to juggle. There's a lot on their plate. You have a PlayStation VR system, PSVR 2, that since Sony isn't announcing the sales numbers and they're not talking about the sales of games, I'm going to assume that that's not doing too hot. We haven't heard really anything when it comes to the MPD or when it comes to Sony themselves. They had that initial launch sales and people were like, that's okay, but nothing since then, and we don't know the sales numbers of these VR games either, so I'm guessing that's not doing too hot. So are they going to continue investing a lot into the PSVR market, or are they going to pull that back and kind of do something different there? I think that they have to make decisions on what they're doing with the PlayStation Portal. Is that going to be something that's heavily supported and iterations, or maybe even develop into its own system to where it can play games natively and not just through Wi-Fi or internet? So I think that's also going to be on the discussion table with Sony after Jim Ryan, because I think a lot of these are Jim Ryan Ryan spearheaded decisions to kind of make a lot of money or to get into certain sectors and be the dominant #1 position in these. But I'm not sure if it's going to work out the way that he was hoping or wanting to. But obviously he's human, right? Like, he has his family, he has stuff that he wants to do. There's times he gets stressed. And honestly, with Microsoft and them losing that court case and that court battle, I would guess that was so stressful, flying all over the world. This man looking like Street Fighter, like the Street Fighter stage select or whatever, right? Like when you pick the character and they start flying to different countries. I think that was probably incredibly stressful on Jim Ryan and his family to have to deal with that, because pretty much, you know, it's not like a 9 to 5. It's like a when you wake up to when you go to sleep type of job, right? We had Phil Spencer at 12:03 a.m. making emails about trying to buy Nintendo and Valve, right? So there's all sorts of crazy stuff that happens. And when you're the big CEO of these companies, it's pretty much a 24-hour job, you know? So I'm guessing that he was kind of tired of that. There was a lot of travel. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of arguing. There was a lot of bickering. There was a lot of pettiness. There was a lot of leaked emails. There was so much stuff that has happened over the years. So I think at this point, he was just like, you know what, man, I'm good. 30 years, I got my retirement, I got my money, I'm out. PS5 is doing good. I think I end on a good note with this. So we saw Reggie Fils-Aimé right off into the sunset, right? Which obviously it's a little bit different circumstances in terms of what's going on, but at the end of the day, it was both because of retirement, and they both had been, you know, in the big CEO and in the big sales, marketing business, gaming business for decades plus. Reggie, not 30 years at Nintendo. I think it was like 14 to 15 years or something like that, but still at Nintendo for quite some time before he decided to hang it up. And of course, in the CEO and in the marketing business with big corporations for decades. So I think that's kind of how I feel on it. Hopefully they can make some adjustments down the line, but I think that any adjustments are going to be later, years from now, not anything soon. But we'll see how it all works out. We'll see how everything works with Jim Ryan, and a huge change here. So what are your thoughts on all this when it comes to Jim Ryan and everything? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other videos right here on screen. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you for the next one. Peace.